So we're in the middle of a series that, to be frank, I stole from I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist from Frank Turek at crossexamine.org. Awesome ministry, check it out. And it's basically addressing 4 questions to prove the validity of Christianity. Does truth exist? Because if nothing is true, then it's kind of pointless to talk about if something is true. Does God exist? Because, well, religion is about God, and so if God doesn't exist, it's pointless to talk about it. Are miracles possible? Because the Bible is packed full of miracles. And if miracles are not even possible, then the Bible's fictional. Are the New Testament documents reliable? Because if we can't even trust what they say, that what they say is accurate, then it's meaningless to talk about whether or not it should be believed. So, we're addressing those questions. Last week we talked about truth. Does truth exist? And we saw yes, it does. We saw that truth is just simply describing reality. It's telling it like it is. And that it's just referring to whatever it is you're talking about that is true about that thing for all people at all places, all times. Truth does exist. And a lot of the claims people make against truth are self-defeating statements. Truth does not exist. Well, if that's true, that truth does not exist, then that itself is a truth, so truth does exist. Self-defeating. And so we see that repeat itself over and over with all the claims people like to make about truth not existing. That was last week. This week, we talked about God. Does God exist? And using logic, premises, drawing a conclusion, we looked at the 3 big arguments that support the idea, the evidence that shows there has to be a God. The best explanation for what we see around us is God. And what we have is the moral argument, which says if there is an objective moral law, then there has to be an objective moral law giver. If there is morality that transcends and goes beyond mankind, then there has to be something where that standard of morality came from. And that something would be God. The cosmological argument. This basically says, if something has a beginning, then it has a cause. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Cosmology and science, physics, tell us, they show us that the universe did have a beginning. If you look at the second law of thermodynamics, everything is breaking down. Well, if everything is breaking down, then there had to be a point where it all started out good, because it could not continue breaking down at this rate. There wouldn't be anything left already. Also, the expansion of the universe. We know the universe is expanding. If you regress that backwards, it all had to come to a single point. And that point had to come from somewhere. And so what is the cause of the universe? Well, we know from Einstein and other things that space, time, and matter are all correlated. So space, time, and matter all had to come into existence at the same time. So whatever created the universe has to be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. Does that sound like anyone you know? We tend to just call him God. The next argument is the teleological argument. This is the argument from design. The word teleos means design or purpose. And we see a fine-tuning in the universe to where it could not have come from random chance. The probabilities are just too astronomical. Everything from the stability of our sun, the distance we are from the sun, the rate of Earth's rotation, the angle of our tilt on our axis, our position in the Milky Way, all of these things and many, many, many more point to all of this had to be exactly right. And if it was off any, then life would not be possible on Earth. But life is possible on Earth. But the chance of all of these things having all come right out of random chance is astronomical. Someone ordered it that way. There appears to be order and design in these things. And then whenever you go down out of the universe into the microscopic in the cell, you see basically what amounts to circuit boards and factories. And actually in our DNA is digital information like computer code telling us or telling our cells what to do and how to reproduce and how to do what it is that our cells are doing is all controlled by this digital code in the DNA. And we know from our experience that that kind of code, like an alphabet or a computer code, only comes from one place. It comes from someone who wrote it. It only comes from a mind, an intelligence. And so, because we see design, there must be a designer. There's a moral law. There has to be a moral lawgiver. There's a beginning to the universe. There has to be a beginner. There is design in the world. There has to be a designer. And so we see from these arguments that God does exist. But we also know that how do you find God? If you seek him, you can find him. He tells us over and over again in Scripture, if you seek me, you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. He says in Acts, I am never far from you. There's people who want to seek for me as if they're groping around blindly. What they don't realize is I'm right here. I told the story of it's like playing hide and seek with my 3-year-old. She's not a very good hider. I have to pretend like I don't see her and walk around the house going, where are you? Where are you? When all the while I know right where she's at. God is there. We are purposefully acting out as if we don't want to acknowledge he exists, and we're walking around going, is there a God? Is there a God? I don't think there's a God. Where is God? But the evidence for God is all around us. All we have to do is look. He says, I'm never far away, and if you seek me, you will find me. God does exist. Seek him. Find him.